7:42 in Trinidad and Tobago and the Eastern Caribbean. We have an opportunity now to talk once again about ICT in education. It's a forum hosted by the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. The virtual event is being held January 26th, that's tomorrow, the 27th and the 31st. The forum is scheduled to provide an avenue for greater regional collaboration amongst key stakeholders and caters to a wide audience, including government policymakers in education. We have three personalities with us this morning. We have Rodney Taylor, Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, Dr. Didacus Jules, Director General of the Oecs. Thank you very much for joining us, the two gentlemen, and a special good morning to Michelle Garcia, who's joining us as well. And because I'm doing this virtually online from my location in Tobago, I do apologize, Ms. Garcia, for not introducing you properly with your proper portfolio. So let me try and recover lost ground by asking you, first of all, good morning to you, to tell us your portfolio and tell us about the importance of this particular event. Good morning to you, Ms. Garcia.
Good morning, Steve. I am the Marketing and Communications Specialist of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. So
okay, so therefore you're perfectly positioned to tell us the basics of the event before we hear from our other guests. Did I read it correctly? 26th, 27th, and 31st. For the event.
Let me clear that up for you. Okay, on the 26th and 27th January, we'll be hosting the ICT in Education, a Caribbean Forum. And on the 31st, we'll be hosting a webinar on Traversing the Metaverse, a Caribbean Perspective. So it's two separate events we'll be hosting on those dates, yes.
I'm glad that's why I'm glad that you're here to clarify. Mislead the entire population or those who are watching in that regard. And for those who would like to participate in the event, what would they have to do, Ms. Garcia?
They just have to visit our website at www.ctu.int and they can register to attend. Both events will be hosted on our virtual hosting platform, Hubilo. And registration so far, there's an uptake of over 450 persons who have registered for the Traversing the Metaverse event. And the ICT in Education, we have close to 300 persons. So we encourage persons to visit our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages where you'll find more information in addition to our website on the events.
All right, so let's bring in Rodney Taylor, Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. Good morning to you, Mr. Taylor.
Good morning.
It sounds like stating the obvious, ICT, especially in the time of the pandemic. But what do you think is going to be discussed in this 2022 edition that makes it even more relevant? Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for having us. It is definitely more relevant now than it was, let's say, 10 years ago. In fact, 10 years ago, UNESCO, who's one of our partners, held a forum in Barbados dealing with this topic back then when it wasn't compulsory. Now with the pandemic, it has risen in importance. Your previous speaker spoke about mental health. That will be one of the things that we will address. We look at the outcomes of the Barbados forum a decade ago, what has happened since. We will also be looking at the Ict Competency Framework developed by UNESCO, and how, because it's not just students that are in this environment now, teachers, and there are certain competencies, skills that they need to have to teach in this different way. We'll also be looking at the technology supporting smart classrooms. So the devices, the platforms like Google Classroom, and Dr. Jules will talk about another platform being developed within the OECS, and also the connectivity. And that's why ITU is partnering with us, because without the connectivity and devices and the platforms, then it becomes a very difficult proposition.
And so you've cued in Dr. Jules perfectly to talk about that other initiative, that other platform. Dr. Jules, thanks very much as well for being with us this morning to make our public very aware of this important dialogue. What's this other element of what is going to take place over the next few days?
Well, we have been given an opportunity by the CTU to present on what we call the OECS digital learning ecosystem, which is being developed by us. This brings together a variety of resources that will help with distributed learning, both in school, whenever students are in school, undertaking learning but wanting to access the internet, as well as at-home learning. We believe that given the trajectory of the pandemic, it is unlikely that school will return to what it used to be, and that going forward, whatever happens, there will be a dual modality for learning at home and learning at school. So this initiative brings together a range of resources covering the learning and instructional resources for parents, for teachers, for learners. And as you can imagine, the resources for parents that will be put online will be developed in such a way that a lot of it is going to be audiovisual material. So for example, videos that will explain to a parent things and activities they can do at home that will support and boost their children's learning. And we use that modality because we recognize there are different levels of education among parents. So even an illiterate parent should be able to view that video and be in a position to assist their child's learning at home. The other component is an academy for OECS students at different levels, kindergarten, primary, secondary, and a special portal for the community colleges where all of their learning content will be loaded. We have developed a program, a special program for teachers with the Joint Board of Teacher Education at UWI Cave Hill to train them to have a certificate in teacher education that focuses on online pedagogy. Because what has happened since the pandemic is that teachers have just moved from chalk and talk to moving chalk and talk in the classroom to attempting to do chalk and talk online. And so this is a specific professional qualification that will enable teachers to be best prepared for that. At the level of kindergarten, and each of the content, all of the content for each of the levels of education will be well suited to that area. So at the secondary level, all of the content is going to be focused on CXC syllabi and learning material. At the pre-primary level, the content is going to be very much a lot of learning games. So the gamification of learning for the preschoolers in particular, which is going to mean that they will learn through play and through challenging activities and so on that they do online. And then
Dr. Jules, if you'd allow me to interrupt. Sorry about the time going by so very quickly, and I'd like to get some final thoughts from our other two guests. But before we get to Dr. Jules, if I could ask you, as someone involved at a regional level in these broad discussions on policy making, how implementable are these things? So like when an event like this occurs, an event is held, an annual event or a first-time discussion, how implementable are these various recommendations and proposals and so on? Just as a
well, quickly, it's not a matter of how implementable, because for us in the OECS, these are things that we are already working on. Some of these components are already in place. Also, we don't sit in castries and develop that by ourselves. It's being developed by groups of teachers. So for example, the content development is being done by teachers, and we offered to train 300 teachers across the OECS space in developing that content. And we got 1,000 applications. So we now have to cater for 1,000 teachers being trained to do this. So it's really a collective effort. Ministries of education spend billions of dollars using ebooks and platforms from other international sources. And we believe we have the talent in the Caribbean to do this. And that's why we're so pleased with the partnership we have with the CTU to make sure that this happens. We must stop being users of other people's content and producers of our own.
I hear you on that, Dr. Jules. I don't think you'll find any argument there at all. So, Mr. Rodney Taylor, a final thought from you as to just that perspective, as to making these sorts of fora very relevant and indeed practical, so that there's no sort of a whole heap of red tape and delays and so on in making these things happen. Your perspective, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, thanks. And good policy comes from consultation, from discussion. So it's important to just have the discussion to start with, because we recognize, especially at the regional level, that each individual country has challenges. But if we have found ways to address those challenges, if we found platforms that work within the OECS, why not expand it to the wider Caribbean? In fact, what I'll just say on the Metaverse webinar that's happening on Monday, Dr. Jules spoke about the content and so on. And I'm excited about the potential of the Metaverse in creating more immersive experiences. If I can walk back through history in the Metaverse and see, the 37 riots in Barbados or historic events within the Caribbean, I think it would make learning much more interesting.
Well, I've learned something immediately. You talk about the 1937 in Barbados, there were labor riots in Trinidad in 1937 as well. So again, in just a matter of seconds, we're learning something new via our discussion this morning. And if I could just quickly bring in Ms. Garcia once again, please, Ms. Garcia, just to remind everybody once again what's happening, when, and indeed how they can be part of this particular discussion once more.
Yes, on the 26th and 27th January, we'll be hosting the ICT in Education, a Caribbean forum, and we invite you to register via our website, www.ctu.int. And on the 31st, we'll be hosting a webinar on traversing the Metaverse, a Caribbean perspective. So those of you, Metaverse is a new concept to many. And if you're unclear, if you're not sure about what the Metaverse is about and what is in it for you, attend our webinar on the 31st of January. Please register via our website, www.ctu.int. Thank you.
And for all people like myself, I am so confused with this online environment. I just said that I'm located in Tobago. It's actually Antigua, where I'm right now for the Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup. Let me thank our three guests for being with us this morning to provide us with this very important bit of information, and indeed as to how people can be part of the events that are going to be happening. That's tomorrow and indeed on Thursday, and then again on Monday. As we go to the break, we have for you, Trinbago, and I challenge while my phone rings here in the room. I don't know why. It's a crown of thorns. It's a bit out of focus, but hopefully it's a nice image for everyone to enjoy. We'll be right back.